Hi, folks. Hi, 2439 SDF. Your first time ever being first. Nice to see ya. Let me see here. Just wanted to see if I had hit my goal. I did. I had walked 12,944 steps today, so I reached my goal. Um, you know, after reading the letter from Charles Babcock about the whole threat that I'm assuming Michael Gottlieb did around like, if you do this, then we're going to sanction you. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. It really made me go, let's revisit the time an allegation was made uh, against Michael Gottlieb for allegedly threatening Taylor Swift's lawyer. And so that's what we're going to look at today. Um, so we're just going to look at things from May 2025, May 12th, 2025, to maybe May or June of things. Um, hey, Christina. Hi, Gron. Says, I don't know how he kept his law license after doing that. I mean, I'm sure he did it within the bounds. I don't know what the bounds are, but like, Michael Gottlieb never denied having that conversation. He just said it wasn't characterized accurately, is what he said, in regards to the Taylor Swift conversation. Hi, Tiff. I've been waiting for this video. You have? I didn't even know I was doing this video until now. So I'm glad that you've been waiting for it because I didn't even know. I didn't even know I was going to do it. So yay. Hi, Kenny. You said, yay. Hi, Bocce. I'm so glad you're here. I've had a long emotional day and I needed a distraction. TV isn't doing the trick. Oh, well, I'm glad to be a distraction here. 2439 says, how do you use a walking pad or outside? Because how? Today it was because I walked to the link. So I used to drive to the link, but now I walk to the link. And then when I get off the link, when I go to the link, I go up the stairs and then I get on the link and I go up, like down this, no, up the stairs again, the other way, go into my building, walk up the stairs there from the second floor to the 8th floor. And then I walk around sometimes depending on what I need to do for work. Then I go to lunch and I go down the stairs and then go up the stairs. And then I walk when I need to. And then I go down the stairs. Okay, you get the point. Man, that was a long. Basically, I've been doing a lot of stairs and I've been doing a lot of like just walking in general. So basically, how I've done it is, can I walk it? Then let's walk it instead of driving it. Kenny said, Bocce, how is your mama feeling? She's doing well. She hosted people yesterday and she hosted people again today. She's resting right now. So, and then tomorrow we're going to a wedding. And so she hasn't had any coughing of blood today. So that's a good thing. So I think she's doing good. Hi, Khaleesi. Hi, Katie or Kate. Christina said he knows how to push the limits without going too hard. Yeah, I think that's probably what it is. It's like yeah. Hi, in my opinion, with love. Hello, Alexandra. Hi, Anna. Hi, Lex. I'm glad she's doing better too, Christina. Okay, so let's go. first we're going to start with one of the emails, and then we're going to go to some of the filings. So we're not going to read the full email. We're just going to read 512 before we read other things. Okay. Okay, so the first thing we're going to read is from Venable on May 12th. All the people are here from Liner Friedman, and as well as the folks, I believe, that are with maybe, I don't know if it's, is this Jones, Stephanie Jones's lawyers? Might be. I can't recall. Maybe then, maybe not. I can't remember who Summer Benson and Mitra is. No, I feel like that's still with Wayfair, isn't it? Possibly. I don't know. Then you've got, Wilkie Farr and Manat and all that stuff. So they're all in here. And someone from Venable, Catherine Wright, says, Counsel, today Venable LLP filed the attached motion to quash the April 28, 2025 subpoena in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. The motion and other ancillary documents that were filed today are included at the following share file link. Additionally, attached, please find responses and objections to the April 28, 2025 subpoena to Venable LP. Best, Katie. Hi, Pam. So Aaron from Wilkie responded, Dear Counsel, as you are aware, we were just served with a copy of Venable's LLP's motion to quash filed in the above captioned matter relating to a subpoena issued in connection with Lively versus Wayfarer Studios, LLC. On behalf of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, we intend to file a motion to intervene in the above captioned matter prior to tomorrow's deadline for subpoena compliance, along with a motion to quash. Please let us know by the end of the day today of your position on our motion to intervene. Thanks. Okay. It says, please let us know by the end of today of your position on our motion to intervene, asks Aaron, right? This was sent on May 12th. And I just want you to know, as far as the text messages, as far as the emails that they provide, and I'm going to read the 522 email in a second, but they left them on red. Now, yeah, they could have given them a ring-a-ding-ding. Sure. But literally, I don't think they did. And I don't think they gave them a ring-a-ding-ding because of how the email response back on 522 sounded. And it sounded like they had no clue. It sounded like they didn't give Blake Lively's team a heads up about what they were doing, the conversations they were having. They just let him know, hey, it's all taken care of. And we'll get to that email in a second. And I didn't mean to even close it. But before we read that, we're going to read Garvinsky's letter. So Garvinsky writes a letter to the judge and says, on April 28, 2025, counsel for the Wayfarer party served a notice of intent to subpoena Venable, a law firm that does not represent any party to the actions, and as of the date of service, did not represent any third party served with discovery in either of the actions. The subpoena seeks all communications between Venable and the Lively Reynolds parties concerning the actions, all documents concerning such communications, and all communications between specific attorneys concerning Ms. Lively. On May 12, 2025, Venable filed a motion to quash the subpoena in the District of Columbia. In the interest of judicial economy and efficiency, the Lively Reynolds parties joined Venable's motion and filed a motion to intervene for the limited purpose of moving to squash the subpoena. The subpoena seeks the Lively Reynolds party's attorneys' communications, including those of Michael Gottlieb, with no explanation as to how they could be relevant to any party's claims or defenses in the action. In light of this, the Lively Reynolds parties have requested that the subpoena be squashed. On May 2, the Lively parties requested that the Wayfarer parties explain the relevance of the subpoenaed material. The Wayfarer parties have yet to meaningfully respond, and the Lively parties understand their failure to do so to confirm that the Lively parties' attempts to confer have reached an impasse. Let me tell you that this little footnotes, they love themselves some footnotes. Remember, they love themselves some footnotes. And this footnote basically is why Friedman ends up doing that affidavit, if you recall. Because they're like, hey, they haven't provided a meaningful answer. They're like, you want a meaningful answer? Here it is. But we'll get to that. So then we go to Friedman's letter on May 14. And he says at that time, the Wayfarer parties anticipate that Venable's motion to quash will be mooted in short order, as their counsel and Venable are conferring in good faith. However, the Lively defendants' insistence that the subpoena seeks irrelevant information is wrong. The subpoena aims to obtain discovery relating to witness tampering and evidence spoliation. And I want to remind folks that after this hullabaloo, what did they say they were going to do? Blake Lively's lawyer says, we're going to put in sanctions. But here's the thing. They never sanctioned for this specific thing, ever. However, the timing of it made people think that they were trying to sanction them for this, but they never did. And I don't think they could. I think that they knew that if they pushed that, the receipts were going to come out. You know what I'm saying? Pam said that's why Lively was trying to get privileged documents from Friedman. She wanted to know what Taylor was saying. Alexander said, Bocce, I like the flower background for your lives that you have now. It's very cute. Flower. Oh, okay. I was like, wait. I was like, flower brown. I was like, what is that? Do I have a flower background? No, I don't recall. Okay. The subpoena aims to obtain discovery relating to witness tampering and evidence spoliation. Specifically, the Wayfarer Party's counsel are informed and believe, based on information from a source who is highly likely to have reliable information, that Miss Lively requested that Taylor Swift delete their text messages. Michael Gottlieb of Wilkie Farr, counsel for the Lively defendants, contacted a Venable attorney who represents Miss Swift and demanded that Miss Swift release a statement of support for Miss Lively, intimating that if Miss Swift refused to do so, private text messages of a personal nature in Miss Lively's possession would be released. The Wayfarer Party's counsel are further informed and believe that a representative of Miss Swift addressed these inappropriate and apparently extortionate threats in at least one written communication transmitted to Mr. Gottlieb. So, again, they've always said there was at least one. There could be more, but at least one they knew was written. It is those communications that the Wayfarer Party seek to obtain by way of subpoena, as they would evidence an attempt to intimidate and coerce a percipient witness in this litigation. So I just want to remind folks that when Michael Gottlieb said, hey, you know, it is being misrepresented. What happened? It's being misrepresented. That's not how that conversation went. And I mean, this one doesn't have the statement of 10 years worth of text, But it does say that if Miss Swift refused to do so, private text messages of a personal nature. So if it was a personal nature, that has nothing to necessarily do with this case. So the threat, I mean, I used to say, well, maybe the threat was saying, hey, if you don't come out and support me, this will go to trial. And then all of this text messages between us is going to come out. It could, but then it's like, but 10 years worth of text would not make sense because you couldn't get, they wouldn't be able to get 10 years worth of text. So in this thing right now, it doesn't have the term 10 years. I don't know if it has it in the affidavit, but that's probably where they find it. But I guess my thing is like, I don't know now. I used to think that, well, maybe Michael Gottlieb just said, yeah, we're gonna, if you don't support this, this is gonna go to court. And then your personal communication is gonna come out publicly. I always thought that might be what could have happened. But the reality is these lawyers know what they're talking about or what they're feeling. And Taylor Swift's lawyer was the one who felt like whatever Michael Gottlieb was saying was an act of extortion. Oh, Alexander said it's a cover photo for the live on the YouTube screen. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, I know now what you're talking about. Pam said most of their sanction motions were unsuccessful anyhow. 100. I loved it when that one interviewer called him out on that. And Michael Gottlieb got all flustered and he's like, did Brian ask you to ask me that? Pam said, when Bocce reads my comments, her tone of voice is much kinder than the one in my head typing. I don't know which one you would. Oh, okay. Probably the last like 2 messages ago. Hi, Mari. Is this what Ryan means when he says no pressure to people? Probably. Hi, Kiara. Alexander said that's what I was thinking too, Bocce. I commented on Teresa's video saying her lawyers probably threw in a cheeky under the table kind of threat that was protected by litigation. Yeah, so I mean, but it is interesting, right? It is a personal nature. It is at least one written communication. As stated, the Wayfair Parties Council are in active discussions with Venable to determine how to proceed. Should those discussions prove unfruitful, the Wayfair parties will either oppose the motion to quash or withdraw the subpoena in favor of an amended subpoena, seeking only the communications in question. Here's the thing. Should those discussions prove unfruitful, the Wayfair parties will oppose the motion to quash or withdraw the current subpoena in favor of an amended subpoena, seeking only the communications in question. Here's the thing. They ended up withdrawing the current subpoena. And they said they were only going to do that should those discussions prove unfruitful. So the fact that they withdrew their subpoena said that it was a fruitful discussion. Now, just because it was a fruitful discussion does not mean they exchanged any documentation. And I think that that is what Blake Lively was nervous about. And we see that later on in June when she's claiming, like, I don't need to give you over my communications with Taylor because, I want to see what she gave you. And they're like, they never gave us anything. It says that in the email. They never gave us anything physically. But it does not mean they didn't give him anything verbally. And I mean, I don't know how that all semantics might work, but all to say, Wayfair did withdraw that subpoena. And they only said they were going to withdraw it if the discussions were fruitful. Oh, actually, let me reread that. Maybe I read that wrong. The waiver parties will either oppose the motion to quash or withdraw the current subpoena in favor of an amended subpoena seeking. Well, I still think that the discussions proved fruitful because they withdrew the current subpoena, but they didn't even do an amended subpoena for Venable. They moved beyond that. They moved past that. So I I do think I am a believer that they did get something. What that something is, I really don't technically know, but I don't think it was anything physical. It might have just been a verbal like agreement. 2439 says Ryan's no pressure equals an F ton of pressure. Haha. True. Alexander said, just like you said, well, as this progresses further into discovery, there's no telling how many text messages may have to be turned over throughout the 10-year friendship, allegedly, like this. Gotcha. Pam said, yeah, I was probably just letting them know that the discovery would uncover uncomfortable texts. Alexander said, I mean, Taylor Swift's lawyers could have filed a sanction against Gottlieb for this too. I see, here's the thing. I don't think they were trying to do anything. And I don't think the lawyers would have said anything, but if it were not for whoever was the third party that reached out to Mari said Blake did say no was not part of their vocabulary, so no pressure is meaningless. Kiara said Gottlieb is after Brian Friedman for some reason. In his recent threat, he threw in Friedman as intimidation, like Brian would be afraid of info coming out. 2439 said, yes, I've always wondered how this threat was phrased. Alexander said, I always thought it was a blatant threat, but now seeing all the litigation, I think it was a lower tongue-in-cheek threat because Gottlieb knows how to phrase things close to the line. Kiara said, I'm glad that Jed apparently is not part of the Baha'i faith and is willing to fight back. Now, I mean, I don't know much about I don't know the Baha'i faith like specifically, except the things that I've learned through this case. And I don't think the Baha'i faith says you can't fight back in the sense of like, I do believe they believe in justice. Right. And there is a phrasing. Let me see if I could find that Baha'i quote. It's something about okay. Okay. So there is this statement in the faith that says, strive ye then with all your heart to treat compassionately all humankind, except for those who have selfish, private motive or some disease of the soul. Kindness cannot be shown the tyrant, the deceiver, or the thief, because far from awakening them to the error of their ways, it maketh them to continue in their perversity as before. No matter how much kindliness ye may expend upon the liar, he will but lie the more, for he believeth you to be deceived, while ye understand him but too well. Oh, all too well. But anyways, and only remain silent out of your extreme compassion. So I do think that they're like, they do believe in compassion, but they do have a line. I don't know what that line looks like or what that means, but they do believe in justice enough to say you can't really show kindness to a tyrant, a deceiver, or a thief or a liar because that person is just going to be emboldened to continue on. Because you know, and you only remain silent out of your extreme compassion. And maybe that's, I know it frustrated a lot of folks. I will say this. The minute that the SH claims were dismissed, I was like, just settle. Honestly. until she ran her mouth again, and then I was like, go all the way. But at first, I was just like, just settle, because the biggest thing for me was that his name was cleared from from those claims. I mean, Jamie Heath as well. And so I just didn't feel like there was as much of a need to fight. Obviously, they carved out this 47.1 thing, but it, I don't know. But I understand why people are like, you know, I just don't want the faith to be knocked because they didn't choose to continue, because I think they would have chosen to continue had the SH claims been on the table. Well, what is there left to fight for, really, if those SH claims were gone? And I know people were like, I would rather have them give nothing, but that's not really how, like, I mean, it's a gamble either way. So I don't know. I just uh not, and again, not that you were necessarily knocking the Baha'i faith there, Kiara, but I don't know if it's there. I don't know if the Baha'i faith is necessarily passive when there's injustice. I think that they do believe in justice, and so justice has to do something. But I guess the question for folks that people have to ask themselves is what people are what is do people want justice, or do people want revenge? Because I don't necessarily think that they're the same thing. And sometimes I think people want revenge rather than justice. Because sometimes the question, I guess, to ask ourselves is, what does justice look like? And can justice ever be completely experienced here? You know, the only real justice is to have his name completely cleared, both of their names, Jamie and Justin's names, be cleared. But there's no guarantee of ever doing that. I mean, they could have gone to court, gotten like whatever, but that doesn't change all the damage caused by Blake Lively. Like, it just doesn't. There's going to be people that will always look at Justin and Jamie in a horrible way. And that's the power of an accusation and allegation. You know, you can't clear that, you know. I don't know. Alexander said, what I want to know was, what piece of information did Brian Friedman get that caused him to scramble to want to depose Taylor last minute? I think they hadn't gotten all the text between her and Blake. I don't know if they had anything. I don't know if they had anything. I don't know if it was a bluff. I think just the fear of having Taylor be subpoenaed was enough for Blake. 2439 said, and I mean, obviously, which is wild because she's the one who put Taylor Swift on her initial disclosures and all her amended disclosures, right? So it's like, oh, well, how can she be fearful of something that she requested in the first place? But I don't think that I don't think Blake ever really was like, we're going to go to court over this. I think settlement was always something that she was going to want to do. But in order for Wayfarer to be open to that, the SH claims had to be gone. 2439 said, I always wonder, Blake's lawyers must know she lied a bunch by now, right? And how horrid she and Ryan have been to their lawyers throughout this, and how many things the lawyers suggested or did trying to be sly that backfired in the public, which Blake and Ryan caught hate for and subsequently resulted in spankings for the lawyers. Like, who's leading who in some of this shady lawyering? I mean, I don't know who's leading who, but Blake and Ryan got taken for a ride financially if they actually paid them. Because if we are to believe the things that they're charging, that's ridiculous. So they got taken for a ride. Alexander said, and then they got more messages later from Blake's communications that Taylor didn't give. And then they realized Taylor was more involved than she let on and scrambled to subpoena her, but was too late. Maybe that's a possibility. It is a possibility. Because Taylor really downplayed her role publicly. And then when you see those text messages, you're like, you definitely knew more than you were claiming. Kiara said, I think Baha'i is too nice, and I'm not. LOL. Pam said, I think Wayfarer needs Hollywood connections to a small degree, so they had to be very careful how they attacked her. And I mean, and I don't think they were even attacking her. I think, and I don't know if that's even what you meant. I think they had to figure out how to address this issue. It's kind of like what Melissa, Nathan, and Jen Abel were talking about. They knew that they couldn't, like, Justin couldn't look like a victim, even though he was in his own right a victim. Like, he couldn't look like a victim because that would be taken wrong, right? But he also couldn't look guilty by trying to not address it. So they were like in between a rock and a hard place, where it's like, okay, I have to make sure people don't think that he's portraying himself as a victim, even though, I mean, based off of the things that she did, I mean, and then on the flip side, he can't also not address it, because it just they don't want him to look guilty either. So it's like, either you're not, so how do you fully tell your story? It's very difficult sometimes. Hi Prish. Kiara said, I want justice, but if I can't get it, then I want revenge. Christina said, they are not the same thing, in my opinion, although sometimes they can go hand in hand. Khaleesi said, I want vengeance for Tattle. Mari said, from Gottlieb's bio, multi-dimensional crises involving multi-front disputes with intense media interests. Very Blake multitudes coded, LOL. Hi, Akasha's piece. Christina said, in the way that I want him to bring stories, they try to bury into the light. I wouldn't support him making things up about them or anything like that. Pam said, I blame Brian for all of it, including my own black heart towards Blake. Kiara said Lyman should also know how much she lied by now too. I mean, if he reads his own if he reads the stuff, he should know. He should know. At the very least, there's enough pause around her credibility. Pam said, oh, lawyers will get their money one way or another. Alexander said, do you think Blake and Ryan have insurance to cover any part of this, like insurance on their image and such? Probably. Okay. So this is Hudson's response. On behalf of our client, Blake Lively, we respectfully move to strike the letter signed by Mr. Brian Friedman and filed earlier today. That letter, which was not filed with any evidentiary support of any kind, unless anything under oath, falsely accuses Ms. Lively and her counsel of engaging in witness tampering and evidence spoliation based on an undisclosed anonymous source. Ms. Lively requests that the court strike the Friedman letter pursuant to its inherent power to control, and to strike material from its dockets that is abusive or otherwise improper under the circumstances. I have so little respect for Hudson. I'm sorry. I am ashamed to admit that I used to like Ezra Hudson. until she subpoenaed 107 content creators. And then I saw and realized that she's the shadiest I think she's shadier than Michael Gottlieb. I have zero respect for Ezra Hudson and how she's conducted herself throughout this lawsuit. And that's so sad for me to say, because I was really rooting for Hudson in the sense of, like, I thought she had a conscience. Boy, was I wrong. Hi, MDR-R2Q. Thank you for the $10. You said the justice will continue for years. Justin has developed a strong new fan base, but this has ruined BL and to some extent RR's career. Pam said, oh yeah, insurance hates to pay. Be interesting if their insurance sues them. Kenny, LOL Bocce, you thought they all had a conscience. You know what? It's because you know why people think that what you accuse other people of is usually something that you're guilty of. It's because, like, this has been a tough case for me. As a stinking Pollyanna kind of person who likes to believe the best in people, it's been really tough. It's been really tough to see the griminess, I don't know. It's hard for me to realize certain things about people. I don't mean just because it was Blake Lively or Ryan Reynolds, but or Taylor Swift or Liz Plank or Claire Ayub or whatever. Like, I didn't know who Claire Ayub existed, so probably not. But like, it's a travesty because I never knew how horrible people could be. But at the same time, here's the thing that really gets me is I don't think any of the people that side with Blake Lively have any desire to look inward. They're always going to blame the public or even find a way to blame Justin for the backlash against them, and never understand and look inside and go, you know, it's kind of like when Ryan Reynolds was talking about how Justin and Jamie don't see it's their fault and maybe they should look inside and see that it's them. And I'm like, Ryan, you should look inside and realize some stuff. You know what I mean? I just don't trust that any of the people who came to back her up are going to, like, look back on this with any sense of insight. Khaleesi says so much projection for sure. Kiara said, I agree. It is actually shocking. Pam said, Nag said it best. They sold their legal soul. Kenny said, I can say I have had times where I didn't expect someone to be doing something because it was something I would never do. So I get that. One of my besties is much like you in that sense. I say the same thing to her sometimes. Not all people want to grow and be better. Oh my word, that hurts my heart, Kenny. That literally hurts my heart to hear that not all people want to grow and be better. Like, what? Like, why would part of, like, living is growing and becoming better, I feel like. I mean, like, am I truly living and thriving if I'm not growing and becoming better? Oh my word. Like, then I'd be stagnant and just staying the same and never learning something new. That's scary to me. For some reason. Kenny said, I also am not gonna say I haven't been taken aback by how far they will go. I 100% agree. We are never done learning. Christina said 100, 100, 100. Khaleesi said, I'm still growing and learning every day. Like my grandfather, when he was alive, that's what he would say. Always growing, always learning. Mari said, before I mostly just knew the plaintiff and defendants of cases, but now I notice the lawyers. It's almost always disappointing. They're just people taking a job. Yeah. Okay, so Ezra continues. It should be unnecessary to respond to anonymously sourced, baseless allegations recklessly leveled without any supporting evidence. It is worth stating for the record, however, that each of the allegations in the Friedman letter is unequivocally and demonstrably false. Who told you that? I mean, you have. Sorry, I'm sorry. I can't. I can't. I can't. This is the same person that signed off on the CRD on the CRD complaint upon information and belief, which I believe to be true. Like, girl, that's a lot of covering your butt. Most of those just say I certify under like penalty of perjury or whatever, without all of that extra CYA situation. Pam said, very disappointing to see how low the fighters for justice. Uh, what do you mean? What do you mean, Pam? Very disappointing to see how low the fighters for justice will go. What do you mean? Kenny said, LOL, and they had to later research lying on it. No, they already, by this time, by May 14, 2025, didn't they already know? Or no? I feel like they already knew by this time. I think they knew by February that they should be worried. As a legal matter, the Friedman letter is improper. It does not seek any form of relief. It's irrelevant to any motion currently pending before the court and serves no legitimate purpose. It is not useful to the court in any respect. Ms. Lively filed a letter to which the Friedman letter purports to respond as a courtesy to inform the court about motion to quash proceedings the Venable commenced in another federal court and to preserve her own right to object to the third-party subpoena. But she did not ask the court to take any action, and her letter did not merit or warrant any response from Mr. Friedman, let alone one that purports to manufacture a conspiracy theory in order to obtain communications from opposing counsel via a third party. That's a lot of puffing your chest, girl. Pam said way back at the CRD stage, her lawyers likely didn't have any idea how much she lied. Hi, Kimberly. Christina said, I was thinking her lawyers, how low they go. Alexander said, did anyone watch Brit's live tonight and how was it? What was Brit's live tonight about? The apparent intent of the Friedman letter is to launder scandalous and defamatory allegations about Miss Lively and opposing counsel into the press by abusing the court's docket and avoiding the order requiring attorneys in this case comply with Rule 3.6 of the New York Rules of Professional Conduct. Within minutes of the Friedman letter appearing on the court's docket at 1:50 p.m., media outlets began publishing stories concerning the Friedman letter, including one that posted a 40-plus paragraph article at 1:55 p.m. that asserted as a fact that Miss Lively threatened to expose Taylor Swift's private texts until she publicly sided with her in Justin Baldoni's feud. During a hearing on February 3, 2025, this court explained to the parties that it would intervene if it turns out that this ends up being litigated in the press in a way that would prejudice the opportunity of the parties to a fair trial. The court should promptly strike the Friedman letter from the docket to avoid exactly the result it presaged at the initial hearing. Whether to grant or deny a motion to strike is vested in the trial court's sound discretion. Courts have the inherent power to control their docket and strike material that is abusive or otherwise improper under the circumstances. It is well established that a court has the inherent authority to manage the cases before it, including by striking items filed on its docket. This authority derives from a court's authority to manage its own affairs so as to achieve the orderly and expeditious disposition of cases. Ms. Lively respectfully requests that the courts exercise its inherent authority to control its own docket. Oh, my word, Judge Lyman, I wish you would have. I wish you would have. Because the lack of control you showed on this, like the fact that, oh, my word, it really, I feel like you could have put your foot down on some of these things. It's almost like you were in cahoots with the lawyers so they could have as much money paid out by Blake Lively, because the amount of daily posts is not normal. It was never normal. Okay. This authority derives from a court's authority to manage its own affairs as to achieve the orderly and expeditious disposition of cases. Ms. Lively respectfully requests that the court exercise its inherent authority to control its own docket and strike the Friedman letter as unnecessary, improper, and abusive. Ms. Lively reserves the right to move for sanctions consistent with Rule 11 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure in connection with the Friedman letter at an appropriate time. Now, she says Ms. Lively reserves the right to move for sanctions consistent with Rule 11 of this. I don't believe she actually ever did. Am I wrong about that? I don't think they ever actually did sanctions again. I mean, I think they did a sanctions on Friedman, but I don't think in regards to this specifically. I could be wrong. Did I miss that? I might have. Alexander said it was, I think, Jed Wallace filing, and Pam said, yeah, Sarah and Britt went live yesterday. Kenny said, of course they speak about litigation in the press when they were the one doing the litigation in the press. LOL. I know. It's annoying. Kiara said, don't get me started on Lyman. Hi, Gloria. Pam said, what if you knew Blake was lying and her lawyers were just driving fees and thought it was it was funny, so Lyman let them go ahead? I mean, it feels like it sometimes. Okay, so we'll look at the article that they were talking about. Okay, that can't be it. That's not it. I hate it when they do that. Okay. That was not it. Let me try again. The amount of times that sign-in thing pops up, I'm like, I'm sure the ones that are like sketchy people. Okay, copy link. Why is it not copying? Oh, that article doesn't exist anymore? Is that why I keep trying to put it in and it won't let me? So I'm gonna, I wonder if there's Web Archive, Wayback Machine, that might have it. Huh. It doesn't have any archive of that. I think I have it somewhere else because I'm planning to read a few articles. So I feel like that's on my list. So maybe it's fine that I can't, that link that they provided doesn't seem to work. Okay. So then Friedman was like, oh, okay, I don't have any proof. Let's go. Kimberly said, Bocce, how's your mama? She's doing all right. She's taking her antibiotics. So hopefully in 7 days, like whatever pneumonia she had, she's going to go to her primary care doctor after she takes her her antibiotics on a daily basis for 7 days. Gloria said, also, isn't this something that judge never ruled on? Also, I think that Ryan and Blake are targeting to try to get around Tom Holland and Zendaya to try to be in their circle. Oh, nah. Gloria, I think hopefully Tom and is smarter than that. But you know what? It reminds me of this video that I just saw on TikTok. I mean, obviously it's cut off, so I don't know. I don't truly know what the rest of the clip is. So I have to keep that in mind because you know how things can look a particular way, but it's not really what it seems. So let me show it to you. I have to find the original one to see the context. But it's
I don't know who is Ryan Reynolds.
That's right. He was in Deadpool. Did you see Deadpool?
No.
It's like
He's the other guy who has a mask like yours, but isn't as cool as your mask, right? They're both red,
I love
right?
Ryan Reynolds. I'm just going along with the joke, but
They're both.
Who?
He's just scared. It's fine. It's
I
no big
love
deal.
Ryan Reynolds.
You don't have to be scared of Ryan Reynolds. I don't know who is Ryan Reynolds.
I love that stare down. I love that stare down right when he says, you don't have to be scared of Ryan Reynolds. And that's why I need to see the rest of the clip, because who knows if he just breaks out in laughter right after that, you know? But you hear Tom going, I love Ryan Reynolds. And then he's just like, you're just scared. I mean, and I feel like sometimes people don't tell the truth, right? Gloria said Tom is still very good friends with RDJ, so I hope he knows better. Akasha said Tom and Zendaya would peep there if they haven't already. Christina said they are too smart, in my opinion. And also, they don't want to be part of all this Hollywood stuff. Like, they did things. I think, they've done a lot of movies in this year. A part of me feels like they did a lot of movies so they can take some time off and just disappear for a bit. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I also think Zendaya most likely will end up being a director or a producer. Like, I think that's in her future. I think that's something she wants to do. And she would be good at because she wants to learn. She's not going to like Blake Lively it, you know what I mean? Pam said Jake had a falling out with RR, I heard. Kiara said, well, look at how they did their wedding. No one even knew. Kenny says she should direct a Wayfarer movie. LOL. I mean, Zendaya is a big enough name that she could go anywhere, really, probably. But at the same time, like Scarlett Johansson chose Wayfarer. Or I don't know how that worked. Maybe she didn't choose. I don't know how that works but her directorial debut was with Wayfarer. So Khaleesi said they both seem very hardworking and mature. Glory said Blake delusional thinking she's a style icon, and then Zendaya. I mean, her and La Roche really are a great team. Christina said, I think so as well. She's so talented, so I can see how it would translate to directing or producing. Alexandra said Blake and Ryan wish they could be Tom Daya. Hi, Kialoha Lee. When something goes wrong, don't Blake Lively it. Oh, okay. So let's read Friedman's response back to Ezra Hudson. We write in response to the letter motion to strike. So he says, the premise of the motion is that I made a deliberate and shameless misrepresentation to the court, and that the facts set forth in the May 14th letter are false and unfounded. That is not so. Attached here too as Exhibit 1 is an affidavit executed under penalty of perjury, stating the factual basis for the statement set forth in my May 14th letter. Notably, the motion is signed not by Michael Gottlieb, whose conduct... That's true. That's true. I forgot about that. I love how they call that out. That's like, Michael, why are you not writing your own? Why are you having Ezra Hudson do your dirty work? Like, what? I like that call. Ooh. I love how he called that out. Notably, the motion is signed not by Michael Gottlieb, whose conduct gave rise to my office issuance of a subpoena to Venable, but instead by another attorney from a different firm representing the Lively defendants. The motion also faults the May 14th letter for being filed without evidentiary support of any kind, much less anything under oath. This opposition supplies the sworn affidavit that Lively argues the May 14th letter lacked. Finally, and most notably, the motion claims that the facts set forth in the May 14th letter are unequivocally and demonstrably false. Yet, it is unsupported by any sworn declaration to that effect, much less from Mr. Gottlieb. The motion further contends that the May 14th letter was improper because it does not seek any form of relief, is irrelevant to any motion currently pending before the court, and serves no legitimate purpose. Of course, the same could be said of the Lively defendant's May 13th letter, which Ms. Lively claims to have submitted as a courtesy and in which she did not ask the court to take any action. In the May 13th letter, the Lively defendants claim that the subpoena served on Venable seeks the Lively defendants' attorney communications, including those of Michael Gottlieb, with no explanation as to how they could be relevant to any party's claims or defenses in this litigation. Given that Ms. Lively herself admits that in the May 13th letter, she did not ask the court to take an action, nor could she, given that the motion to quash the subpoena to Venable is pending before Supreme Court and is outside this court's jurisdiction, it is apparent that the May 13th letter was filed with the court for the purpose of besmirching the Wayfarer parties and their counsel. A response was necessary. That's another great reminder. Thank you, Brian Friedman. They were not the ones that brought this drama into the main lawsuit. It was Blake Lively. Nobody would have known that Taylor Swift got a subpoena or Venable got a subpoena if it were not for Blake Lively making sure that the judge knew. Girl, you wanted that smoke. Because there was no good stinking reason to bring it to the main lawsuit yet. Why did you do that unless you wanted headlines? I mean, Wayfarer never dragged that. This is the thing that I always found annoying is when they used to blame Wayfarer for dragging Taylor Swift into stuff. But when you look back at every bit of evidence, it was always Taylor Swift every single time. Kenny said, LOL, you should hear how uppity you sound at 1.5 speed. Oh no. That's horrible. I don't want to sound uppity. Why do I sound uppity? A response was necessary. The May 13th letter claims in open court that my office issued the subpoena to Venable for an improper purpose, rather than in pursuit of relevant documents. Accordingly, we submitted the May 14th letter to correct the record. The motion should be denied. Okay, so let's remember the Friedman affidavit. Affidavit of Brian J. Friedman. Gloria said, Taylor Swift had her hands in every aspect of this film right along with me, Blake Lively. Taylor Swift has knowledge of evidence in this case and is willing to testify, Blake filing. Kenny said, I wonder what the J stands for. J. Oh, Brian J. Friedman. I'm sure it says it somewhere. Pam said, yeah, she only wants her dragon when it works for her. All right, so as a reminder, this was what the affidavit of Brian J. Friedman said. I, Brian J. Friedman, pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 1746, hereby declare as follows. I am a partner of Liner Friedman Tatelman, and Cooley, LLP, attorneys for Consolidated Plaintiffs, Wayfarer Studios, LLC, Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, It Ends With Us Movie, LLC, Melissa Nathan, Jennifer Abel, and Steve Sarwitz, collectively the Wayfarer parties, in the above captioned matter. I submit this affidavit in opposition to the motion to strike filed on May 14, 2025 by Blake Lively regarding my May 14, 2025 letter, elaborating on the basis for the Wayfarers party's subpoena to Venable LLP. Hey, LC. Mari said Taylor was a player in a one-sided game of chess. Justin wasn't even aware there was a game. LOL, she was plotting. On February 14, 2025, I received a voicemail from a person very closely linked to Taylor Swift, whom I subsequently called back the same day. Out of respect for the individual in question, I'm not identifying them at this time. However, should the court direct me to do so, I will comply with the court's order. Okay, so February 14, Valentine's Day 2025, he receives a voicemail from a person very closely linked to Taylor Swift, who he called the same day. And out of respect for that person, they weren't going to provide the name. But if the court said, give us the name, he was going to comply with the court. Pam said, daring them to ask. Oh, definitely. Daring them to ask. So during the February 14th phone call, which lasted approximately 1 hour, the speaker told me they had been informed that J. Douglas Baldridge, counsel for Taylor Swift, and a partner at Venable LLP had received a phone call from Michael Gottlieb, counsel for Blake Lively, and Ryan Reynolds, during which Mr. Gottlieb requested on Miss Lively's behalf that Taylor Swift make a social media statement in support of Miss Lively, given her absence from the Super Bowl that year, and stated that if Miss Lively, stated that if Miss Swift failed to do so, Miss Lively would release 10 years of private texts. Okay, so this is where the 10 years come from. 10 years of private text with Miss Swift. The individual also told me that they had been informed that Mr. Baldridge had accused Mr. Gottlieb of extortion and ended the call. So the individual also told me that they had been informed that Mr. Baldridge had accused Mr. Gottlieb of extortion and ended the call. Now, this is a big telephone in a way, right? Because Brian Friedman heard from someone close to Taylor Swift, who heard from someone else that heard from someone else. So I think this is why he said it's triple hearsay. Because this person didn't say that J. Douglas Baldridge informed him. He said that the speaker told him they had been informed that J. Douglas Baldridge had received a phone call. So that could be taken two ways. It could mean that J. Douglas Baldridge told him, but it also sounds like it could mean somebody told him that J. Douglas Baldridge got a phone call. 10 years is in quotes, though. So that is something that was actual words used in there. Kimberly said, when does anyone think Lyman is going to rule on 47.1? How long has it been? A month? I think it's going to be a while. Alexander said, I gave up anxiously waiting for Lyman, but now that it's been a month, maybe soon. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be soon. I wouldn't hold my breath. I mean, but if he does, yay. Would love to close that chapter of this whole thing. Hi, Freckles for Days. I mean, I think that if he's taking a while to respond, I hope it's a smackdown of like how ridiculous her ask was in the first place. Kiara said, I think Teresa is guessing Labor Day-ish. Kenny said he has criminal cases going on, I think. Gloria, I literally think he does not want to vote on it because it is not a law. Kenny said someone said he might wait on the Jones versus Abel case. Oh my word. I don't know if he can wait that long because that's gonna be a while. During the same February 14th call, the individual told me that they had been informed that 4 or 5 months earlier, Miss Lively had requested that Miss Lively delete her text messages with Miss Lively. So 4 or 5 months earlier of February 14th, that would be what? January, December, November, October, right? Either it would be October, between October and September and October of 2024, which honestly is kind of in line with when she was asking for dailies to be deleted. And also a lot of text messages, I wouldn't be surprised that Josh deleted would have, I bet he would have deleted it around that time frame. I wouldn't be surprised. We already know that Josh deleted text messages. There's no question about that. But when did he delete it? That's the question. And if he deleted it around the September, October timeframe, then that tells you a lot. I've always wondered, actually, now that I think about it, the texts and emails between Colleen and Josh. I wonder if 12:33:5. What did she say? Oh, 9. Hold on. So, obviously this could be about anything. But I will say this. This is 4 days prior to Van Zandt being a thing. 4 days before Van Zandt happens, Josh sends a text to Colleen. Hi, Colleen, give me a call when you have a moment. Have some news for you. Josh. And she says, will do. I'm going through security at the airport right now, but we'll call when we're in. Again, this is 4 days, right? 4 days before the Van Zandt situation. The last time they had talked was August 10th. And then they end up talking September 23, 4 days before. Hey, Gelth Walker. So 4 days before, Josh has some news for Colleen. Again, doesn't have to be about Van Zandt, but I'm just noting that it's 4 days before. Alec, is Josh a Sony guy? Yes. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to say yes like that. I meant yes. It's just Josh annoys the living daylights of me. Anybody who has the Josh emoji, put it in the chat. Because that's the Josh. That's the Josh. Can't stand him. Anyway, I shouldn't say I can't stand him. I don't know him. I can't stand what he did. Okay, so September 23, 4 days before Van Zandt. I just want y'all to notice this pattern. 4 days before Van Zandt, he texts Colleen this. 4 days before the New York Times hit piece. I know people thought I was crazy for thinking this was code. And I understand why it sounds crazy. But I just feel like if you know somebody's doing a New York Times hit piece and you want to talk to each other about what's about to happen, you're not going to say anything. And to me, the hint has always been this laughing emoji. 4 days before the New York Times hit piece, they say, any thoughts on the Urus? Been looking at them online, but I'm nervous its interior and infotainment system is mad like the DBX. Also, hi, hope you're doing well and stress-free. Laughing emoji. And I don't know. And I understand people were like, no, they're really talking about a car. And I hear you. But I think the reason I don't know. I still sometimes feel like it's code. I really do. I mean, I think it's just code because they don't talk for October, November, December. Okay, so they don't talk for a month, over a month, and talk 4 days before Van Zandt. They don't talk for another October, November, 3 months. And this is their conversation after not talking for 3 months via text. And frankly, I also don't believe that they didn't communicate in these timeframes because Josh has already shown himself to be a deleter of text messages. So why wouldn't Colleen be a deleter of text messages as well? Why wouldn't? Why wouldn't? And why wouldn't they keep this one? It sounds like they're talking about cars. But I don't know. Hope you're doing well and stress-free with a laughing emoji. I don't know. This text message has never sat well with me. And it's hard because Reynolds has talked about his Lamborghinis. There was an article I read talking about Ryan's Lamborghinis. And then this is the reason why it made me think of Blake was because like Justin Baldoni had compared her to a Porsche. And you have to hear the context to not misunderstand why he referred to her as a Porsche. But anyways, I got a good old talking to from folks being like, you have fallen off the deep end. I'm and I get it because it reads like you're talking about cars. I just think it's weird timing. And then when she says yes, waiting on that puro sangue or whatever, however it said, to not be $1 million, laughing emoji. And I always felt like that was code. I always did. I was like, is that for the movie? Is that for the sequel? Are you saying that you think that the price for the sequel is going to go down because of the accusations that's going to be leveraged against them? You know, I was just so, again, none of it is founded. It's just, I just couldn't help it because this brand of car has never been $1 million. It's never been $1 million. I mean, obviously she could have been doing on hyperbole because just because it's never been $1 million, it can feel like $1 million. But the most expensive recorded sale for this Ferrari was 536,540 pounds. But I mean, what is 540 pounds in USD? That's still not $1 million. So I mean, I don't know. I've never fully gotten this. This is between Josh and Colleen, and I've never gotten past it because there's something that doesn't sit right with me about this text message. It also is weird to me how spaced out these text messages are. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I feel. But anyways, I forgot why I even looked at that. There was a reason for it. Oh, I was looking at the time frame to see if there's any proof that she had asked people to delete things during that time frame, and just to see what Josh and Colleen were talking about. Um um I mean, possibly, because it sounds like it's not available for sale in the United States. Maybe. Actually, hold on. There's this auto finder. The auto finder here, they're selling it for less than 500,000. They're selling it for $423,686. So I don't know. I don't think so. Though that was a possibility. Kiara said Alicia admitted under oath Blake said to unfriend Justin. Yeah. Because Blake asked me to, or whatever she said. I was connected to this individual through a mutual friend who informed me that the individual wanted to talk. We have had several phone calls since February 14th. Who would have that been? Who would that have been? Who would this mutual friend have been? A mutual friend informed him that the individual wanted to talk. I said, I don't know if she would be talking about cars. I mean, unless fantasizing about the money she's going to make or something. I mean, I think she does actually like cars. So it's not beyond it to really be a conversation about cars. But like, why is that the opening line after not talking to him for 3 months? It's like there's almost like there seems to be a relationship there. Because if I haven't talked to somebody for 3 months, that's not what I'm breaking out. And then she's like, oh yeah, also hi. I don't know. It seemed like an interesting interesting vibe about it. Gelth said they said Taylor's father, but the way Brian was speaking, I think it may have even been Taylor's mother. Maybe, I don't know, but I will say Taylor Swift's dad is a talker. Did you ever read his 7-page email? Yeesh. The man felt a lot and said a lot in those 7 pages. Not of course about this case, but a different case. But on a later call with the same individual, the individual told me that Mr. Baldridge had sent a written communication to Mr. Gottlieb relating to their phone conversation. My office issued a subpoena to Venable LLP for the purpose of seeking the aforementioned written communication. I declare under penalty of perjury pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 1746 that the foregoing is true and correct. Gelf says, Alexandra, sadly, the Rebel case was won on a case of degrees because of the judge believed Rebel slightly more than Amanda Ghost, etc. However, I think she won't win in America. The reason for the lawsuit in America is different also than what she was sued for in Australia. So that one will open things up in regards to Jed and Melissa Nathan. Alexander said, I Googled AI and Colleen told People Mag she used to own a purple electric Porsche but got rid of it because it was too flashy and made her self-conscious in a small Texas town. Well, I mean, if that's the case, then why are they talking about these more expensive cars? Maybe because she's no longer part of that town. Who knows? And this is how I feel like they didn't need sticking her nose. Didn't want people sticking her nose in this whole thing about them trying to get the subpoena. Douglas Baldridge just said, counsel, please be advised that the Venable subpoena and the Taylor Swift subpoena have been withdrawn by counsel for the Wayfarer parties without prejudice to them timely serving subpoenas in the future should they decide to do so. All parties reserving all rights. No documents are being produced and no deposition is being scheduled. Accordingly, we will be notifying the court that our motion to quash is moot. Thank you, Doug. Oh, I didn't even think about the span of time there, Kenny. Between responses. Okay. So that was 5:22, and then there was another text message on 5:22, I think. I mean, email. So again, they said in that original email, Douglas Baldridge said no documents were exchanged. No documents exchanged hands, right? But because of Brian Friedman's quote, what was it? Kristen Bender said, counsel, at least one public report relating to the Wayfarer party's withdrawal of the Venable and Swift subpoenas has stated that Brian Friedman dropped the request for the subpoena, and the reason for doing this is very simple. They got exactly what they were seeking. We interpret this quote to mean either that, one, the intent of the Wayfarer party subpoena, since our understanding is that they obtained no discoverable materials as part of this process, was to introduce scandalous allegations about Ms. Lively and her counsel into the public domain to generate negative stories, or two, the Wayfarer parties have received materials responsive to their subpoena, which would come as a surprise given that no materials have been provided to us. To the extent that the Wayfarer parties or their counsels have obtained any documents or communications concerning Ms. Lively from any third party, those materials must be produced as they are responsive to multiple long ago served requests for production, including RFP 32, which demands all documents and communications concerning Ms. Lively that you obtain from any third party. Given that you have indicated that you plan to begin to produce documents this week, we expect that any materials that you receive from third parties, including in connection with the decision to withdraw the Venable and Swift subpoenas, will be included in the initial production. We trust that you will continue to bear in mind as well the continuing obligations in relation to discovery materials as to parties and third parties under the applicable protective order. Our clients reserves all rights. And so on June 9, Kristen Bender sent another message that said, counsel, we have received any response to the email below, which we sent more than 2 weeks ago. To date, you have made 3 small productions, none of which includes any materials that you received from third parties, including in connection with the decision to withdraw the Venable and Swift subpoenas. We can only conclude that no such materials exist and that the purpose of subpoenaing Venable and Swift was to not to procure any relevant discovery, but rather to generate a public relations stunt. Either way, given that Mr. Friedman has publicly confirmed that the Wayfarer parties dropped their request for the subpoena because they got exactly what they were seeking, we understand that you will withdraw RFPs 108 to 109 that you served on Ms. Lively and RFPs 106 to 107 that you served on Mr. Reynolds. To the extent that they are still operative, considering he is no longer a party, Mr. Reynolds reserves all rights on that regard. To the extent that you do not withdraw those RFPs, please provide your availability to confer within 48 hours. So there's other messages back and forth between Hudson and Roser, but I'm just going to read the one from Fritz on June 17, 2025. It says, I, Kevin Fritz, pursuant to 28 U.S.C. 1746, hereby declare as follows. I'm not going to read that first part, so just down here. This declaration is also submitted in support of the Wayfarer Party's cross motion to compel Ms. Lively to produce documents relating to her allegations of sexual harassment and retaliation, her communications with Ms. Swift, Sony, and WME concerning the same, and her claims for economic damages, which are responsive to certain requests for productions. Neither Ms. Swift nor her counsel have provided the Wayfarer parties with any communications between Ms. Swift and Ms. Lively. On May 22, 2025 at 10:58 a.m., Ms. Swift's counsel notified Ms. Lively's counsel that no communication between Ms. Swift and Ms. Lively had been provided to the Wayfarer parties. Therefore, when Ms. Lively's counsel demanded the same day at 4:57 p.m. that the Wayfarer parties produce documents obtained from Ms. Swift on or her counsel concerning Ms. Lively's counsel already knew that no such documents were in the Wayfarer parties' possession. I do feel like they were playing with each other a little bit here, because Brian saying what he said made them think that there was something. And that's why they're like, so this is a publicity stunt. But then I think he said that because he knew that was enough for them to know, like, we know there's something. And in an email delivered on June 12, 2025, and in accordance with Rule 4C of the individual practices, I requested that Ms. Lively's counsel met and confer telephonically the following day at 3 p.m. about the request, which includes request numbers 108 to 109, seeking Ms. Lively's communication with Ms. Swift relating to It Ends With Us and the action, respectively. Hence, the statement by Ms. Lively's counsel in her declaration dated June 13, 2025, that the Wayfarer parties have still not made themselves available to meet and confer on this issue is inaccurate. In response to my email, Ms. Lively's counsel confirmed on June 12, 2025, that they will be ready to discuss the parties' productions as needed on June 13, 2025 at 3 p.m. Minutes before the scheduled meet and confer on June 13, 2025, Ms. Lively filed her motion. Given Ms. Lively's prior representations in her formal discovery responses, the motion was the first time that she advised the Wayfarer parties that she was refusing to produce documents responsive to request number 108 and 109. During the June 13, 2025 telephone call, Ms. Lively's counsel refused to discuss request number 108 to 109, Ms. Lively's communication with Ms. Swift about the film and the action, because moments earlier, Ms. Lively had filed the motion. When Ms. Lively's counsel was reminded that had requested, in accordance with the individual practices, that counsel meet and confer about the issue, Ms. Lively's counsel again refused to discuss the issue and stated that I could oppose the motion. When I suggested that notwithstanding Ms. Lively's premature filing of the motion, i.e. before the parties met and conferred, the parties should discuss request number 108 to 109 to resolve the dispute and moot the motion, especially given the court's already busy docket. Ms. Lively's counsel still refused to engage. Moreover, during the telephone call, I explained to Ms. Lively's counsel something they already knew. The Wayfarer parties are entitled to communications between Ms. Lively and those non-parties. identified in her amended individual disclosures as having discoverable information. The requests were included within the Wayfarer party's first set of requests for production of documents and things to Lively, dated February 21, 2025. On March 25, 2025, Lively responded thereto. Even though 10 weeks has passed and even though the parties agreed to make rolling document productions, Miss Lively has not produced any documents responsive to the request. For the request pertaining to Miss Lively's allegations of sexual harassment, her communications with Sony, which released the film, and WME, her talent agency, and documents concerning her alleged economic damages, her counsel refused to commit a date for the production thereof and merely stated that they would be produced prior to the July 1, 2025 deadline for substantial completion of document discovery. And then they just talk about all the exhibits that they were attaching to the thing. I think I'm trying to decide whether I want to at least read one article before I go to bed. Because I have so many articles that I pulled for that time frame. Because I wanted to see kind of what was happening. During that time frame, she after the whole thing with Taylor Swift, she actually decided to drop her emotional distress claims around that time frame. So let me see. I'll choose one. I'll choose this one from Mercury News. Let's see. I'm going to read this one, and then I think I'm going to call it a night because I'm tired. Also, by the way, let me see if I could find the person's name because I thought it was so adorable. So I'll do a shout out. Let me see if I can find the person's name. Okay, Miss Violet Saga. I mean, not Saga. Miss Violet Sage, on TikTok, sent me like a video of her cat watching me on TV, and says that her cat loves watching me. And I was like, I've had people who have like told me about their spouses getting into watching me with them, or their friends, or their family, like their kids. But like, I was like, this is my first pet, I'm pretty sure that somebody's told me. And I was like, that's kind of fun to have a pet be into listening to you. That's like nice. So I just wanted to shout out Miss Violet Sage and her cat. I don't think she told me what her cat's name is, but it was cute. All right. Taylor Swift feels exploited by Blake Lively after subpoena report. While Swift can't be surprised by Justin Baldoni's legal maneuvering, she is reportedly devastated about being dragged into Lively's legal battle. This was May 12, 2025. It said Taylor Swift had to expect she'd one day get a subpoena to testify in Blake Lively's legal drama with Justin Baldoni. After all, Baldoni's attorneys Brian Friedman has hinted for months that he'd like to depose the superstar singer over what she knows or what she may have been complicit in with regard to her friend's dealings with Baldoni during the production of her 2024 film, It Ends With Us. Once the subpoena was finally issued Friday, Swift felt compelled to finally speak out publicly on the case. Her representative issued a blistering statement in which she denied she was involved in any aspect of the film's production. The statement also accused Baldoni's legal team of using the subpoena to create tabloid clickbait around the case. But as much as Swift rebuked Baldoni's legal tactics, others have taken the statement to mean that Swift is finally done with Lively after more than 10 years of friendships and is going on the record to create distance between them. The Bad Blood singer may understand that the subpoena comes from Baldoni and his attorney, but she may still blame Lively for dragging her into this mess, said Elaine Liu of Laney Gossip. The Daily Mail certainly buys this. Reported Sunday that Swift was left devastated and floored on Friday when she received the subpoena, even though she couldn't. She was also spotted smiling while on a Mother's Day with boyfriend Travis Kelce and his family. Still, the legal move marked an escalation in the case and has apparently forced Swift to reevaluate the friendship, according to Daily Mail. Taylor has been aware that Blake has been exploiting her name for a while now, but the subpoena takes it to the whole new level, a source told the Daily Mail. Okay. I don't like that statement. Taylor has been aware that Blake has been exploiting her name for a while now. When you read the text message, though, Taylor, you knew and you approved. You knew and you were okay with it. That's why I'm not a fan of that statement. You're acting like, oh, she's been exploiting. You gave your sign off. You gave your thumbs up. You gave your of using your name to get leverage on this movie. Hi, the Golden Bull 777. So I can't play with statements like that. You know what I mean? And that's why it does make me wonder if she ever thought any of her stuff was going to come to light. But things began to sour in December when Lively filed a lawsuit against Baldoni, her co-star and director for the film. The Daily Mail said Lively alleged that he engaged in sexually inappropriate behavior on the set and launched a retaliatory smear campaign after she spoke up during the production. Baldoni denied the allegations and in January filed a countersuit alleging defamation and extortion against Lively, her husband Ryan Reynolds, and their publicity team. Baldoni contends that Lively and Reynolds worked to take control of the film, which he has said he spent years developing from Colleen Hoover's best-selling novel about a woman surviving domestic violence. Among Baldoni's specific claims are that Swift and Reynolds pressured him into accepting one of Lively's rewrites for the script, People reported. In his complaint, he described an alleged meeting at Lively and Reynolds' Tribeca penthouse where Swift praised Lively's script. Baldoni understood the subtext. He needed to comply with Lively's direction, his complaint said. In an alleged text exchange between Baldoni and Lively following that interaction, the directors referred to this pressure from Ryan and Taylor, but nonetheless complimented the actor on her script changes. Lively allegedly responded by comparing herself to Khaleesi from Game of Thrones and calling her husband and Swift her dragons. I always wondered how Sean Levy got like under the radar on this whole thing, because Sean is the third dragon, but he never gets mentioned. Swift's statement clearly seemed designed to distance herself from any role in the production of It Ends With Us. Taylor Swift never set foot on the set of this movie. She was not involved in any casting or creative decisions. She did not score the film. She never saw an edit or made any notes on the film. She even see It Ends With Us until weeks after its public release, and was traveling around the globe during 2023 and 2024, headlining the biggest tour in history. They just had to drop that in there, you know? Like, I don't have time for this. For headlining the biggest tour in history. Is it the biggest tour in history? I mean, I probably, maybe. The statement said, according to People, the connection Taylor had to this film was permitting the use of one song, My Tears Ricochet. Okay, see, that's what I don't like. That's really downplaying it. The connection Taylor had to this film was permitting the use of one song, My Tears Ricochet. The statement continued, given that her involvement was licensing a song, oh, no. For the film, which 19 other artists did, this document subpoena is designed to use Taylor Swift's name to draw public interest by creating tabloid clickbait instead of focusing on the facts